guys, and welcome to my very late October reading wrap up. I was able to read 13 books for the month of October. I've been meaning to record this video for forever because I wanted to talk to you guys about these books, but you know, I've been busy. I actually read way more in the month of October than I originally thought I was going to because I had like a lot of other stuff going on. So I'm really excited to share these books with you guys. Most of them I did enjoy. But first of all, I wanted to let you know that this is a sponsored video and I'm working with Luisa again. I think they had sponsored one of my videos a few months ago and they let me choose 3 pieces to share with you guys, and it's really exciting. I have on right now one of the sets here and they just layer so perfectly together. Like when it comes to jewelry, like I've mentioned before, I'm very into minimal jewelry, and this is things they sent me were like exactly what I like. This is the vintage necklace set in Heritage, and it's 2 simple gold chains. I really like how these look. So the other one I received from them was this V necklace called Vida, and I will show you guys closer up pictures of this because this is not going to focus right now. And the other set that I received was this one called the Cardi set, and this is another layered option as well. I think all of them are really cute. So I don't have a discount code for you guys right now, but actually they have on their website, I think for the month, at least for the whole month of November, a sale going on, and it's buy one get one 40% off. So go check out their website. I'll leave the link down below. I really love the quality of their jewelry. The sustainability approach that they're taking with their brand is something that is important to me as well. Their price range starts out at $39, so you can definitely find some nice quality jewelry at a price that isn't going to break your bank, because I don't know if you guys are like me, I really I am not into spending a lot of money on my jewelry, so I feel like you can get a really good value for your money. There's really just something on there for every price point that you're looking for. So I'll leave the link down below so if you guys are interested in checking out their jewelry. And now let's get back into talking all about the books that I read for the month of October. So I'm not sure kind of what order I want to go in for talking about these books. I think I'm just gonna pick them up off the stack and we're gonna go from there. Actually, I changed my mind. I think I want to start back at the beginning of October because that's probably honestly going to be the hardest books for me to remember because it's been a month and a half now since I read some of these. The first one I don't own a physical copy of, and that's Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I was able to get an audiobook of this from my library, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It's a mystery thriller book. I read all of Riley Sager's books so far, and I will say that this one is probably my least enjoyable or favorite of all of them. I've liked his other ones much better, but I will continue to read any books that Riley Sager puts out. We're following a girl, her name is Maggie, and she lived in this house called Bainbury Hall with her parents for about 3 weeks before they had to leave under mysterious circumstances. When she was a kid, her dad ended up writing this nonfiction book about their time and experience living there, and we're going now back and forth between her, I think her father has died, so now she's inherited the house, and she's someone who flips houses for a living, so she decides that she's going to renovate it and sell it herself, and she's going to spend the time there doing it. And at the same time, we're going back and reading excerpts from the original book that her father wrote. And we're trying to figure out, you know, is what he wrote, is it really true or not? And mysterious, creepy things start happening when she's returned back to the house. So she always was under the impression that all this stuff was maybe not true or not, because she can't remember everything, I believe, from that time. So now it's been, like I said, a minute since I finished this book, so I don't exactly remember. I remember some of the twists at the end. But I do remember like enjoying my time with the book. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite Riley Sager book. I would definitely recommend his other ones over this one. Even from the beginning, like the whole premise of this book didn't interest me as much as the other ones that he's written have. But if you're into his books or mystery thrillers, this is one that I would think that most people would probably at least somewhat enjoy. Next, we have another book that I also was able to get an audiobook from my library, and that is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This is one I've heard talked about so many times on BookTube, and it was one that was, I believe, on my radar when it had been released. I just didn't get to it really soon. and I gave this one 4 stars. It's gonna be so hard for me to explain what this book is about. I feel like this is a common thread for a lot of people. This book has a lot of mixed reviews. Like, it doesn't have the best Goodreads reviews. It seems like most people are kind of spread throughout. Like, a lot of people fall in the middle, but then there's some that just like really hate it and some that really love it. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was atmospheric. Go into it knowing, I feel like it's good to go in not knowing too much, but to know that there is not a lot of plot and there's not much resolution at the end of the book. So you have to be okay with that as something when you're reading, or if not, don't even think about picking up this book. So we're following our main character, and she's been accepted into Catherine House, which is this exclusive, prestigious school that people who graduate from end up to go having like great careers, like presidents and all types of stuff like that. So you have to agree to be there for the 4 years, and you're pretty cut off from a lot of the outside world. You have to give 4 years of your life to them. And it's, like I said, really hard to explain. It's very atmospheric. I enjoyed it. I would definitely read other books by this author. If you've been on the fence about reading this book, I would say maybe check out some other Goodreads reviews so you can kind of get everybody's ideas. But at the same time, it's just like kind of one of those books you have to read to know if you're gonna like it or not. For me, it was a little bit of a weird book, but I did enjoy it overall. And then as far as putting it in a category, I feel like it's so hard to categorize because it's not exactly like, I guess some people kind of put it in like dark academia. It's not exactly, it's like a little bit of like mystery elements to it, but it's not like a thriller at all. So take that as you will. The next book that I read was definitely more on the thriller side, and that was Perfect Days by Rafael Montes. I've been wanting to read this book for forever. I've owned it for forever. I've put it on so many TBRs. I finally got around to reading it. This one, I think I ended listening to most of this one on audiobook as well. I was doing a lot of audiobooks last month. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I thought it was definitely interesting, but I don't know, I could really see how some people really like this book. I think lately, just with mystery thrillers, I don't know, I haven't been able to give them much more than like 3.5 stars on average lately. I don't know, I think it's more of a me thing. But anyway, back to this book. We're following our main character. His name was Tio, and this takes place in Rio de Janeiro. He is a medical student, and he meets this girl. He really likes her, and he quickly becomes obsessed with her. It's the point where he ends up kidnapping her and taking her on this trip across the country. And it was definitely interesting. If you're really looking for a story that goes really deep into like obsession and like really dark places with that, then this is your book. It's very different from the kind of idea that the cover would give, with this like pink suitcase and pink hanger, and the cover design itself looks very like contemporary and like a very happy book, and that is not what this is at all. It's a very dark book. Some of it kind of reminded me a little bit of the road trip scenes in the book Lolita, if you guys are familiar with that. It's definitely interesting to read from the mind of a person who's definitely a psychopath, and but also at the same time can appear very normal to everybody that he encounters. So also that kind of reminds me of Humbert from Lolita as well. I feel like this author definitely has taken some inspiration from that book, but kind of flipped it a little bit. The woman that he kidnaps is not a young child. This is a grown woman. So yes, this one, I think definitely there's a good audience for this book. I thought it was okay. I would definitely be open to reading other books from this author. I'm not sure why I didn't even really like it, because even as I'm talking about it now, it sounds interesting to me. So I don't know, maybe it just wasn't the right time. I was just in a very mystery mood for the month of October, and I think I just wasn't picking up the right ones. But I picked up another mystery, and I also gave this one 3 stars, and it was Broken Things by Lauren Oliver. Honestly, this book didn't leave a strong impression on me, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time even remembering much about it. This book, we were following a friend group. There were 3 friends. I think when they're in high school or middle school, one of them dies. One of them is found killed in the woods, and people assume that it was the other 2 girls that did it. They were obsessed with this book. It was called The Way into Lovelorn, and they would imagine themselves into this magical world, and it really, the way that she was killed, it made it seem like it was them, but it was never proven. We're following the 2 surviving girls years later. And during the book, we're going back and forth in the timeline, and we're seeing them try to figure out the mystery finally of what happened that night and who killed their best friend, and a lot of secrets that both of them are keeping from each other as well. Like I said, this book just didn't leave a really strong impression on me. I do have another book by Lauren Oliver on my shelves. It's called Replica. I've had on there forever. I think I'll still read it, but I just don't have anything compelling me to read it very soon. So last month I did something that's very unusual for me. I actually finished a book series, and that required me reading 4 books, but I figured I was just enjoying it so much I wanted to keep continuing on with it while I was still at my peak of interest in the series, and that is the Memoir of Lady Trent series. So I read Voyage of the Basilisk, In the Labyrinth of Drakes, Within the Sanctuary of Wings, and Turning Darkness into Light. And I love this series. I think I gave all of these books 4 stars. I can't really, obviously, since these are the concluding books in the series, I cannot tell you guys too much about them, but that we're following the last part of Lady Trent, all of her memoirs. And the last one here actually is not following her. We're following her daughter and a few other perspectives that are through this book as well. And I really enjoyed this one too. It was definitely fun to see the continuation of her story a little bit through just observations from her daughter. Or no, actually this was her granddaughter. Sorry, I'm getting this wrong. Her granddaughter is the one that we're following in this book. And I just really enjoyed this series. It's a fantasy series following a woman who wants to become a dragon naturalist and study dragons, but even though this is like a fantasy series, it's very similar to European, I would say, times, and the society is very similar to European societies, and women are just not expected to do anything besides get married and have kids. So it was definitely a struggle for her, and we were seeing that throughout all of these books. And I really enjoyed it. I recommend it if it's something that would interest you. Just don't expect a ton of, I mean, there's a lot of dragon stuff, but we're also following a lot of like political things going on at the same time, stuff within her own like family and stuff. And I just really enjoyed this series. It's one that I could definitely see myself rereading. Probably not soon, but maybe in a few years. I would definitely love to at least pick up the first one again. The next book that I picked up, I do not have a physical copy of. I checked this one out from my library like the day it came out, and it's a graphic novel. It's Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I wanted to read this one first before I decided to purchase it, because just in case I didn't like it, which I should have already known I was going to like it. This is the first time I probably almost cried reading a graphic novel before. I just really enjoyed it. It's just so well done. The adaptation, the art style was perfect to go along with the story. This was an adaptation of Jason Reynolds' young adult book, Long Way Down, which I read a few years ago. It's something I've been meaning to read again. I believe it was told in verse. We're following a young man, and his brother has been killed, and he's been taught that he needs to avenge this death. So he thinks that he knows who killed his brother, and he's going to go and kill and take revenge on his brother's death. And so he enters this elevator in his apartment building, and as he goes down each floor, someone significant steps on that has an impact on him that's from some part of his past, and it's just really well done. I could not recommend this graphic novel enough. It's one that I'm definitely going to want a physical copy of on my shelves. I gave it 5 stars. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but yes, if you're into graphic novels, I would highly recommend this one. The next book that I read and finished last month was I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This is one book that I have heard so many good things about, nothing but good things about. So I went into this book with very high expectations, and I will say that I enjoyed this book. It's the first one, I believe, in her autobiography series. There's many in the series, or at least around 7 or 8 if I had to guess. And I enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars, but I think I didn't love it as much as I had thought that I was going to going into it. I can definitely see, you know, the importance of this book. I think it was well written. Reading about her story, especially the kind of painful things and brutal things that she went through during her childhood, was so interesting to read about, but also sad at the same time. And to see the kind of woman that she has become today and all that she's achieved is just so awesome to see. I definitely want to continue on reading the rest of her autobiographies. I only own this one at the moment. So far I have to find a way, either like a bind up or to get the rest of the series. So this is poet Maya Angelou's debut memoir, and it's definitely a classic book, one I think some people study in school. I don't remember ever being taught anything from this book or reading or being required to read this book in high school. She's growing up in the South with her brother and with her grandmother. And we're also seeing the feelings she has of kind of like abandonment, in that her parents aren't the ones really raising her. She's being raised by her grandmother. I feel like this is just definitely a powerful story. I don't know if there's any adaptations of this actually out there. I want to look into that. This is one, I'm glad that I finally got to read this book and understand and know what it's about, because I feel like it's one of those classic books by Black authors that are always referenced, and I had some vague familiarity with the basic gist of what the story was about, but I didn't really know too much, and so I really did enjoy reading this book. I think that her writing is really great. I haven't even read any of her poetry before, besides maybe we had to study one of her poems in school. I can't even remember now, but I definitely do want to read more from Maya Angelou. Next, I finished a book that has been sitting on my partially to read list for forever, and it's a short story collection. It's No Presents Please by Jayant Kaikini. I think I mentioned this to you guys before. Like, I had read the first book in this short story collection, or the first story, and I really enjoyed it, and I would rate it like 5 stars, but then I got scared to keep going because I thought maybe the rest of it wouldn't be as good, which wasn't something I had to worry about. I gave this book 4 stars. There were, as with most short story collections, some that I preferred more than others, but overall these short stories were very interesting. They kept me entertained, they kept me interested in things to think about. They all take place in Mumbai. I believe the author himself is South Asian. This book won the DSC prize for South Asian literature. Most of his stories are taking place in like metropolitan areas of Mumbai, so there's a lot of like train rides and being in movie theaters and apartment buildings and stuff that just all really help to build a really interesting atmosphere to read from. All the stories, they kind of connected together in a way that made sense. Not that they actually like are interconnected stories, but they make sense all to be together, like around similar themes. And I really enjoyed this. If you are into short story collections, this is one that I would recommend to you guys. And I hadn't heard of it before. I believe it was the author or maybe one of their like press people that had reached out through an email to see if I wanted to have the copy to read and review, and I'm glad that I said yes because I really enjoyed this book. The last physical book that I read that I already owned for last month was The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. This one is also like a mystery thriller book, and I listened to this one on mostly from audiobook. I've been meaning to chase this book forever. I don't know, something about this cover of this book I just really am interested in. I love the cover of this book. Our main character, she's 15 years old. Her name's Elaine. And at 15 years old, her mother committed suicide, and now she has to go live with her grandparents, who I believe she has never met before. It hasn't had no relationship with them, but they're the only surviving family members of her family that she is aware of or knows of, so she gets sent to live with them, and also with her cousin, who is also living there at the same time. And at first it seems like it could be a really good thing for her, but we see things start to go weird. She only ends up staying there for the summer. So this is like all stuff that's happened in the past. Is we're going back and forth between her being 15 and now we're following her in the future. Her in the future is 11 years later. She is living in Los Angeles when she finds out that her cousin has gone missing. So she decides to return back to the farm with her grandparents, and we know something went down that summer. Things are very tense between her and her grandparents, but we don't know what it was that happened, and slowly over the course of the novel we are going into the mystery of what happened to her cousin, and what happened in the past, like that led to their family having this big like rift between them and losing contact with each other. Overall, I think I gave this book 3 stars as well. I don't know what it is. I was really in the mood to read mystery thrillers last month, but just nothing was very much impressing me. So like I said, I don't think it was the books themselves. Maybe it was just me. I don't know. But it was an interesting enough audiobook to get my attention, and I didn't predict everything that was going to happen in the book, but some parts of it were a little bit predictable to me. But I did enjoy this book. It's definitely kind of more like a thriller suspense slash mystery as well. I think maybe the reason why I haven't been really enjoying mystery thrillers as much lately is because I haven't really cared enough about the main characters in the books themselves to care what happens or what direction the mystery goes in. But I will say that the opposite is true for the next book that I'm going to talk to you guys about, and it's the last book that I ended up finishing for the month of October, and this one was called When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, and I gave this one 4 stars. This was finally like a mystery thriller that really kept my attention the whole time, that I didn't predict everything that was going to happen. It definitely gave me surprises, and just like the social commentary going on behind the scenes with everything of the book was just so interesting to me. I really enjoyed this. This is a mystery thriller that rarely do I ever say I want to reread a mystery thriller book. This is one I want to definitely go out and purchase a copy of so that I can have it on my shelves, and eventually I would love to reread a physical copy because I listened to this one as an audiobook from my library. What this book is about is it takes place in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, and it's becoming very gentrified. We're following our main character. Her name's Sydney Green, and she's originally from the neighborhood, but it seems like everybody who originally from the neighborhood is suddenly like disappearing, and it seems like they're disappearing without even a trace, and she's worried. She doesn't know whether this is something that's just in her head or if it's actually something more sinister behind where all of her neighbors are disappearing to. So Sydney ends up connecting with one of her neighbors, Theo, who is one of the new ones that's moved into one of the condos that's recently been like renovated, that he bought with his girlfriend. They are looking into the history of the neighborhood for this like walking tour that Sydney is deciding that she's wanting to create. And I'm just going to leave it there. I don't want to go too much and give away too much for this mystery, but I really did enjoy it. Now, Alyssa Cole is a Black author, which in general, mystery thrillers aren't a genre where we see a lot of Black authors getting a lot of attention for their works, and I just feel like it was just so well done. I would love to read more mystery thrillers by Black authors. So if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know because I would love to read them. I would say going into this book, don't expect your typical mystery thriller type of tropes. From people who have rated this book low on Goodreads, I've seen that's kind of like one of the things is they don't really see a lot of the mystery thriller elements in this book. But I believe that it definitely deserves to be put into that category. I feel like it's definitely has a lot of mysterious elements to it, and I think I'm gonna stop talking because I don't want to give away too much, and I feel like I'm going to say things about the book that I should not that would give things away if I keep talking about it. So those are all the books that I read for the month of October. Those were 13 altogether. I think that was a pretty good amount, and I'm glad that I was able to finally sit down and talk to you guys about these books. That's it for this video. I hope you guys have a good rest of your reading month for November, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!